after watching this video is to be able to divide integers and know the rules that apply to both multiplying and dividing integers. Alright, so let's start basics like we always do. What does division mean? I know you can spit out the facts, alright? But what does it mean? Why is the answer to 8 divided by 2 4? Alright, so we start, we have 8. We have 8 what? 8 positives. The number we're dividing by tells us how many equal groups we're going to divide those 8 positives into. So this says 8 positives, divide them into 2 equal groups. Okay, so 2 equal groups, looks like that. Is that group equal? Yes. And then our quotient tells us how many things would be in each of those groups. So in each group there are 4 positives. Second example. All right, we have 6, and they are 6 positives. Whoops. I almost wrote 7, but I didn't. Caught myself. All right, this time we need to divide them into 3 equal groups. Our answer, our quotient, is how many things are in each group. There are 2 in each group, and there are 2 positives. So our quotient is 2. Quick refresher, different ways to show division. All of these problems that you see up here say the same thing. So we have 8 divided by 4, 2. Here we put 8 under the division box, and we divide it by 4. All right, that's maybe where you started with division when you first learned about it. And then finally, the most advanced way to show division is a fraction. This means 8 divided by 4. Every time you see a fraction, it's division just waiting to happen. So when you see 1/2, we could also view that as 1 waiting to be divided by 2. 2/4 or 2/3 means 2 divided by 3. We could write this as 8 divided by 4. Oh, said that one. Okay. So now let's take our basic division up to 7th grade level. This time we have 8 negatives. And we are dividing them into 2 equal groups. This is just common sense. Just common sense. What you have is being divided into equal groups. So divide it into equal groups. There would be 4 in this group and 4 in this group. And they are 4 what? This time they're 4 negatives. That's the only difference. Over here, we have 6 negatives. And they are being divided into 3 equal groups. 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups. How many does each group have in it? 2, and this time they're negatives. So in this case, I took a negative divided by a positive. They have different signs, and I got a negative answer. Over here, I took a negative divided by a positive, and I got a negative. All right? They had different signs. I got a negative answer. Okay, so here's where the wrench comes in, and it doesn't make quite as much common sense. In this case, I have a negative 8. All right, that part makes sense. Divided by negative 2. That part is harder to rationalize. It's harder to understand. So let's just start by saying I am dividing it by 2. Let's just look at the 2 first. So 2 equal groups, there they are. All right, but then those negatives are getting negated or taken away. All right, I owed $4 to each of these people, but they had mercy on me. They're like, Ms. Herscher, we love you, keep the money. So now I have 4 positives from each of those people. So our quotient is positive 4. We took a negative divided by a negative, the things we're dividing have the same sign, and we got a positive answer. Example 2, 6 negatives. And we're dividing by 3 negatives. So let's just focus on the 3. Let's just divide it into 3 equal groups. There are 2 in each group. But then I noticed, hey, we're not dividing into 3 groups, we're dividing into negative 3. So we're negating our negatives, we're taking them away. These 3 people that I owed $2 each to said, hey, forget about it, keep the money. And so now I have $2 from each of them. My quotient is a positive 2. So again, in that case, I took a negative, I divided it by a negative, but my answer is a positive. I divided 2 things with the same sign, and I got a positive answer. So let's put that in rule form, and this might be something you want to write down. The super nice thing here is that multiplying and dividing have the exact same rule. Beautiful! One less thing to remember. So multiply or divide 2 integers with the same sign. and the answer is always positive. So negative times negative equals positive. A positive times a positive equals a positive. A negative divided by a negative equals a positive. A positive divided by a positive, also equals a positive. Now let's move down to this rule. Multiply or divide two integers with different signs. And the answer is always negative. So a negative times a positive is always negative, because these are different signs right here. All right, a negative divided by a positive is also always negative. If you write everything you see on this page down, you don't have to memorize anything. You can use your math notebook on quizzes, exit quizzes, tests, without having to memorize any rules. Hopefully after you look at them enough times and refer to your notes enough times, you will have it committed to memory. All right, so a few examples here. Dividing integers with the same sign. So here we have negative 18 divided by 6, negative 6. All right, they have the same sign, a negative and a negative. So if I multiply or divide two things with the same sign, I always get a positive answer, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. All right, different signs. So in this case, I have a positive number divided by a negative number. Different signs means that I will get a negative answer. Second example, remember a fraction like that just means negative 54 divided by 6. We read numerator divided by denominator. And in this case, we have a negative, but this one is a positive. Different signs, I will get a negative answer. Okay, real life application. You measure the height of the tide using the support beams of a pier or a dock that you see over here. Your measurements are shown in the picture. What is the mean hourly change in the height, or the average hourly change in the height? So I have, at 2 p.m., the tide is 59 inches high. Let's start by finding out how much the tide changed between 2 and 8. So 2 p.m. it was 59 inches. 8 p.m. it was 8 inches. So let's take 59 minus 8, and we'll find out that the change in the tide was 51 inches. Now let's talk about this. Did the tide increase or decrease from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.? It went down, right? It started at 59 inches, it ended at 51. So in other words, it went down 51 inches from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. All right, now we have to figure out, okay, we want to find out the average per hour, or the mean per hour. So let's divide that by how many hours we have between 2 and 8. All right, so from 2 to 8 is 6 hours. So the tide decreased by 51 inches. We're going to divide it by 6 hours, and I don't care if you use a calculator to do this. The big thing I want you to see is that we're taking a negative divided by a positive, so we're going to get a negative answer. All right, and then 51 divided by 6 turns out to be 8.5. So negative 8.5 means that if it were fair, if it were even, and the tide decreased by the same amount every hour, it would have decreased 8.5 inches per hour. All right, your job is to try to figure out the answer to this problem by knowing that A is the same as negative 18 and B is the same as negative 6. And then when you think you have the answer, I would like you to type that answer in on Edmodo and submit it